Hi everyone and welcome to Inderes TV. Today we're going to talk about KONE with Analyst Aapeli Pursimo. Welcome.
Thank you.
So KONE, how would you summarize the Q1 for KONE?
It was quite as expected, so no any big surprises regarding the numbers. The outcome was very well in line with ours and also market expectations. So positive development, slight revenue growth and margin improvement, but overall as expected.
As expected. But the order intake slightly exceeded both our and the consensus estimates. What types of order are these and where did they grow the most?
So basically the company grows everywhere else outside China, which is there is orders break down like 15% or so, and outside China it's a double-digit growth.
Okay, so everywhere else but China.
Yes, and especially in modernization, which is growing quite nicely, and also the service business is growing, but all the service orders are not visible in the order intake, so it's quite hard to measure the exact effect. But in the new building solutions, of course, China is burdening the order intake and also the revenue.
Yeah, you already mentioned there somewhat, but KONE specified its guidance for this year.
Yes.
And how much will KONE grow this year, and where will this geographically come from? Will it be from everywhere?
Yes, everywhere outside China, basically, and it is 1 to 6% in comparable exchange rates. The guidance, so basically it's a modest growth, quite modest, but of course there is still the China's effect visible, even though its share has declined in recent years quite much.
So how big is China's share at the moment?
If I remember correctly, it's around 20% in the Q1, and also in the, but it will decline further due to the situation especially in the NBS business.
Yeah. So if we talk about these different segments, modernization, new building solution, and maintenance, which one will grow the most this year?
Probably the modernization. It's but there's a nice tailwind behind in the market and also in the service business. But the same story.
The same story there again.
Yeah, and the NBS is probably is declining this year.
The new building solutions.
Yes. Due to the China's.
So a lot of talk about China here, but what about the trade wars and tariff policies? How much will they affect KONE?
The direct effects should be quite small. The company estimated that its revenue from the US that are under tariffs is around 10%. So, and the US share of the group's revenue has been around 20% in the past years. So you can take the math. So around 2% of the group's revenue. So direct effects should be quite modest. And of course, they have tackled this situation through the global footprint and also through the pricing. But of course, there could be some indirect effects, which will show maybe a little bit slower. And of course, KONE is a very defensive company. 90% of its revenue, profit comes from the aftermarket business. So even though there is some hiccups in the new building market, it won't affect KONE that hard. But of course, if the situation prolongs, then of course it will also affect KONE. But KONE is a quite defensive company.
Yeah. So what about current valuation and recommendation?
So we turned reduce after the Q1 report. We think the share is quite rightly priced right now. And of course the multiples are high, but there's a reason behind it. But there is no room for growth there, at least right now, due to the situation regarding the tariff situation and the overall uncertainty in the markets. There is some aspects that could hinder the earnings growth, but of course the company KONE deserves high multiples due to the defensive nature of the business and the good quality of its business. If we look at for example, the return on capital,
but still reduce.
Still reduce.
Yes. Thank you so much for all these comments.
Thank you.